Welcome to the Side Action Podcast, the sports gambling show that covers everything in the world of sports betting from A through Z. We'll cover the four major sports, as well as anything and everything in between worth some action, and will increase the size of your bankroll. And here we go.
Hey, welcome to Side Action. I believe it's episode 19 of season 5, but my name is Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and on Instagram.
And I'm Steve Roberts, aka Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
Podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter and Side Action Podcast on Instagram. Hey, Action, so what's it been like for you this week? It's been kind of crazy. It's been a weird week. Must have been some, Mercury in retrograde or something. It's been a little nuts.
Yeah, wild week too. Week 1 of 2023, I guess you'll have that. Just trying to get back and catch up on work, mostly. And I know you've been traveling, so I can imagine that it was even more hectic for you.
Yeah, it's first of all, great New Year's Eve party. Had a blast at the Drake, so that was awesome with a bunch of friends and a close friend that came with me. That was really fun. And then Sunday, kind of was sleeping it off.
Yeah.
A little hungover. Watched some games, and it was not a greatest week, unfortunately. And then I traveled Monday to Colorado to visit my dad a little bit before the business trip, which was all in one. And you know how I work. Mondays I'm like at the computer. It was kind of weird working with my dad's because he doesn't have, like I said, no Wi-Fi. I'm kind of doing it on whatever, doing hotspot, even though I get terrible reception out there. So I'm trying to do my work, and we're watching we're about to flip on the game, and this crazy thing happened with Damar Hamlin, and I didn't get to see the play live. I was trying to figure out what happened. It was like 20 minutes or whatever into the game, like real time, not game time, and it sets the whole week. Now nobody knows what's happening, like both with him physically, and thankfully he's recovering. He can speak, and my God, that's so, everybody's happy about that. But more importantly, for everybody around us, like nobody knows what to do. You know what I mean? Like, how do you respond? And so I'm happy he's doing well. And the NFL, I think they voted today. I don't know if you probably have the latest, but so they're not going to play the Cincinnati Buffalo game anymore.
Right.
They just kind of canceled the game officially. And that's going to affect how things happen in the league. And, that affects, everybody betting and other stuff. But what's the latest? Did they end up deciding to approve the neutral site of the AFC Championship game? Is that what they went with? Or
I believe that the vote is sometime this evening. I don't think it's occurred yet. Last I read, I thought it was 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern time. So I don't know if the league has actually ratified the proposal or not. But I would expect that it will go through. And as you alluded to, it's going to throw some really weird scenarios in for the playoffs this season. I haven't personally quite wrapped my whole brain around them. What I do know is that the game is canceled, as you mentioned, and all 3 teams at the top in the AFC, Kansas City, Cincinnati, and Buffalo, now have everything to play for because of the way that the records are situated. Both Buffalo and Cincinnati need to win in order to secure a neutral site game if they were to reach the AFC Championship.
Right. I should restate, the most important thing is he's healthy, or he's going to be he's living, he's getting better.
Definitely.
Anything that happens around it doesn't really matter. I just said more importantly and mistakenly, but yeah, I guess the proposal is this neutral site. If it's going to be Kansas City and the Bills, again, depending on what happens this weekend, Cincinnati could be in the mix. Plus Cincinnati with the division, coin flip if Cincinnati doesn't take care of business this weekend, then they're subject to a coin flip if they play. Where they're going to play, it's just fascinating. So I've never seen anything like this, of course, in the game, or have the NFL ever do this. Even in the COVID year when we had those weird reschedulings, they always kind of figured it out. Maybe they got lucky the way it played out. This has just been weird. So as a result, full disclosure, Action, my research stopped as of that moment. So I've done nothing since then because I didn't know what to do, when they were going to play it, what I was going to do. And So I'm going to have limited information. And plus, it's week 18. Like, we'll go into the week 17 recap a little bit, but week 18 means, like, bedlam. Who knows what to expect going to
Yeah.
these games. We'll talk more about it later. So for the quick recap, and I guess other injuries we should mention, I mean, Lamar Jackson's not going to play. There's a ton of people not playing this week, which I guess we'll talk handicap by handicap. It's just a weird week when it comes to that stuff. So you're putting something right here. Bridgewater.
Yeah, Teddy also not going to play. I think he got a hand injury of some kind, and it looks like it's going to be Skylar Thompson.
But did you know they brought up Mike Glennon?
I was just going to say that too. Yeah, Mike Glennon, I think he's going to be the backup. I don't know how anybody could be worse than Skylar Thompson, though, so who knows what they're going to do.
Don't worry, Action. We've got Joe Flacco on the Jets side for startings. It's insane. Let's go into last week's games. The Steelers, what can we say? Thank you for covering Pittsburgh Steelers, even though it's a complete cardiac. Sorry, I shouldn't use that term anymore. It's a complete situation where it shouldn't have happened, and it kept our hearts, racing at the end. The Ravens were winning the whole game, even though it was really low scoring. And Kenny Pickett, last drive, takes Steelers down, 90-yard drive, touchdown. So they were actually going to not cover the game, right? It was 10-6, right? And then they ended up winning the game outright. So they covered 2 for us. Thank you, Kenny Pickett and Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, what a game on Sunday night. It was really a great watch. I mean, if you like defensive football and low scoring, the under was a rocking chair winner, and we can't say the same for our Steelers tickets.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks in a row. I mean,
yeah.
Thankfully, they did cash in both regards, but man, we'll see what happens this weekend. They play the Browns. So on the negative side, we were pretty much on the wrong side of all these losses here. We had the Eagles -5.5 at home versus the Saints. Seemed like a good ticket until they started playing, and Minshew did not have the magic they did in Dallas. He looked bad. In fact, I don't even know if they got a first down in the first quarter. Definitely didn't do well in the first half. The Saints weren't like juggernauts, but they scored enough and won this game pretty easily over the Eagles, putting the Eagles in a bad position. If they lose this weekend, not only will they lose the number 1 seed, they could lose the division and get on the road in the playoffs.
Yeah, that would be quite the turn of events. I mean, they have it all to play for. Thankfully for them, the Giants have little to play for, and that's reflected in the point spread. So I know we'll talk about that in the next segment.
Right. The Texans, well, the Jags decided to play their guys, and play they did. They destroyed the Texans. This is a match that we talked about. Traditionally, Texans, even as bad as they've been, cover this situation. They did not. The Jags look really good. They're going, even though the game meant nothing to the Jags, they're going forward into this game against Titans this week. I mean, let's face it, they're playing great football.
Yeah, they look awesome. And on the other side, the Texans looked like a team that were trying to lose because they still need another loss to sew up that number 1 pick.
Yeah, because the Bears are with them, right? And then the Jets. Oh, man. The Jets were 1.5-point favorites at Seattle. Let's give Seattle some credit. They played really well in this game. They came out of the gates firing. Pete Carroll was fired up, chewing his gum as possible on the sideline. And they destroyed the Jets. This game wasn't close. I was hoping that there'd be a comeback, and Mike White did not get it done. The defense just didn't play very good early in the game, and that's all that mattered. And unfortunately, the Jets' offense continued to sputter, and they lost outright, pretty badly.
Yeah, somewhat of a step back from White. I think, part of that was due to his rib injury, and part of that just due to him not being quite the superstar quarterback that he was made out to be in that couple-week run that he had mid-season.
Last game we picked were the Bengals, and they were leading 7-3, as we said. It was canceled. The way the contest treated it was to give everybody a half a point or a tie, so that he's finished 3-1. Didn't have the greatest other picks either. Lots of games for just not going the right ways this week. So what can be said? What can you do? But overall, underdogs, 8-7 to the number this week, and then the unders have still reigned supreme, 8-6-1. There were 4 games that were determined by the spreads, so that's starting to get a little bit more common, it seems, as we go, and the books are getting better with those numbers.
Mm-hmm. Or the bettors, perhaps, in some cases.
Maybe.
Worshiping those numbers in the book.
Maybe. If you're taking those underdogs, right? Let's go into Week 18 action. And again, as we approach this, there's a couple things to consider. There's a lot of seeding going on for teams. There's people that obviously are still trying to get into the playoffs. And then the third tier is, like you said, some of them may be intentionally losing for draft picks, like the Bears and the Texans. So there's a lot of different ways to look at these games. And admittedly, I've not done a ton of research on the spreads because I think a lot of it is, it's going to be feel what we think is going to happen here, right?
Yeah, I mean, more so than any other week in the football season, you really have to focus in on what each individual team's motivations are.
Mm.
Are they trying to lose? Are they trying to win?
Right.
Are they trying to rest? Are they trying to build some momentum going into the playoffs? I think that's a fourth tier that a lot of coaches and organizations don't really take that approach, but we've seen it before with the New York Giants is in 2007, that season where they went into week 17, as it were, against the Patriots, thinking they were going to get smashed. And
Mm-hmm.
they actually played pretty well in that game and ended up parlaying that performance into a run in the playoff, and they beat New England in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So we could see it again from the Giants.
You could. Not just the Giants, there's other teams involved, right? So let's start off. There's 2 games on Saturday, and the rest are going to be on Sunday. There's no Monday night game this week and that's the national championship game, which I guess I didn't put on the agenda. Actually, we probably shouldn't talk about that for college football. So the first game on the docket is the Chiefs and the Raiders. The Chiefs open as a 9.5-point favorite on the road, 52-point total. It's 9 in the contest, 52.5-point total. So the Chiefs are in one of these unique positions, like we mentioned. If they win, they kind of put the situation where they're basically going to be like, wait, that's how it works? Let me think. Right now, the Bills still hold the tiebreaker, right? So if if the Bills win, then they would. Is it Bills and Chiefs win? They do the neutral thing?
Right. The Chiefs would still have the number 1 seed and the bye, most importantly. But the key differentiator is if they both make it to the AFC Championship. Then, due to the canceled game, the NFL is proposing that to be a neutral site and not in Kansas City.
Yeah, so even though,
of course, that is clutch, but I think the bye is equally as important to Kansas City.
Yeah, the bye is important. Plus, the Bills did go to Kansas City to win. You'd figure they'd get some, kudos for that. But what are you going to do? So the Chiefs still are motivated to win. That's the important thing. Now, We didn't talk about Stidham, who played well against the 49ers last week. Do you think that like Minshew, like some of these other quarterbacks in their second start, that maybe there's a little bit of regression here? I mean, I know that obviously the Chiefs have had troubles covering numbers all season, especially this big a number. But, they're not really motivated to win the game, but certainly people are playing for contracts. So what's your take on this handicap?
I think I have every expectations the Raiders are going to put up some points again this week. Stidham played really well last week, and we have seen it reflected in this total now up to 52.5 in some spots. And for that reason, I think that you only have to look at Raiders here. Yeah. Couple that with the fact that the Chiefs are horrible at covering point spreads in this vicinity. I'm kind of shocked that it is such a high number, and I think it's just reflective of the quote-unquote must-win scenario. So right. I like the Raiders and the points here.
The Raiders definitely. I've also heard some sharps on the under here, which sounds a little strange because these teams can score, but maybe Stidham does take a little back step, and it's not quite as a light show as it was against the 49ers. So, okay, we could probably yellow up the Raiders here.
Okay. I mean, I got to say, incredibly strong performance against San Francisco last week. I mean, if you can do that against San Francisco, presumably you're going to be able to do a similar performance against Kansas City's defense.
I do think that our proxy already sold his Derek Carr jersey and switched to a Stidham jersey, or at least used a marker or something. some black electric tape on the back over the far stuff. Something like that.
Nice.
So. All right, the next game, which is the Saturday night primetime game, sort of cool. I wish it was this Monday night primetime game, to be honest with the action. Titans are going to the Jags. The Jags open as a 6.5-point favorite. It's 6 in the contest. The total's from 38.5 up to 40. The winner of this game will make the playoffs as the AFC South champ. The Jags still have a chance to make the playoffs with some other things happening, but they control their destiny. If they win, they're in. Titans are basically out if they lose. So, I like the Jags. I do. Is 6 too much? Hard to say. I mean, the Titans, this team is, are they going to start Dobbs this week?
Yeah,
He played better than Willis.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you that. But man, 6 points. God damn it, actually. I wanted to take this game, but
which
I
side
don't know.
did you want to take? The Jaguars? Yeah.
The Jags. The Jags. I can't go Titans.
Well, I have a personal confliction on this game because, as you may recall, I bet on the Jaguars to win the division early on at 300 plus, and so me personally, I took 7 actually with Tennessee early in the week when I saw it pop, and I thought that was a good opportunity for me to get a little hedge down. And quite frankly, as I dive into this game a little bit more, I think that even the 6 is a little bit too much. This is such a huge game. I think that we're going to see some pressure on the Jaguars here. And as the home favorite, with the team with all the expectations to win, I think that 6 is going to be a little bit of a difficult ask for them. And combine that with the fact that Derrick Henry got his week off last week. You pretty much count that as a bye for the Titans. Despite Dobbs playing, most of the regular starters were rested, and Vrabel coming off of a bye is dynamite. So I think that Tennessee is going to have a pretty good game plan here, and I like the underdog here with the points.
Okay. Well, it's a tough one, man. And I understand what you're saying. I totally agree with the logic. I'm just looking at the Jags schedule down the stretch here. Obviously, the Cowboys game, remember that one? That was a high scorer. And then they beat the Ravens in a close one, beat the Raiders, pretty close game. Texans, they lost. So they actually haven't had that many home games of late. They played a lot of road games and been kind of those road warriors. They've been killing it on the road. So, which is funny because it's the contrary to what we say that I'm sorry to use it. It's obviously the stripper handicap. I don't think Vrabel's going to have those guys out late night on Friday for this one. So probably the Titans are pass, I guess. I don't get on board though. I'm afraid that they can't score in this game. So maybe we pass. If you're really convicted on it, I prefer to pass.
Yeah, I think plenty of other games on the slate that we can look at. I do like the under. Since you mentioned it, I think that game was such a high stakes. It's a second divisional game. Going under 40 is a pretty good number there.
Right. Okay, in the 1 o'clock window for Sunday, you've got the Vikings against the Bears. The Vikings open as a 1-point favorite with a 45-point total. Then a massive move to 7.5 on the road in Chicago for a 43-point total. Mainly probably to Nathan Peterman starting, right? The cannon known as Nathan Peterman. The Bears offense has been incredible with Fields. The defense is terrible. We know that. The Vikings are like the worst team to cover numbers. So I am happy to stay away from this one action, even though I think the Vikings are probably ultimately the right side here. 7.5. I mean, come on, bro. This defense is terrible too. Although Peterman's garbage.
There's no way that you're going to get me to lay 7.5 with the Vikings in this game. It's either Chicago or pass for sure. I'm just not sure what to expect Peterman. So, I mean, I make this 4.5 on a neutral. That's with Fields in the lineup, obviously. So you got to ask yourself, what's the downgrade? Right. And, I don't really think that Minnesota is well suited to go on the road and play in this outdoor environment in Chicago with very little to play for.
Right.
Can they even improve their seating?
Let's think this through. Technically, they probably can.
Okay.
But
slim chance.
It's going to take. I mean, they've got to have San Francisco lose, right? Because they have 4 losses.
Yeah.
The Eagles could drop to 4 losses, but then again, they beat them head to head. So the best they could probably hope for is that the
2 seed, perhaps.
2 seed's the best. Yeah. Although, I think they still there for the 1 seed, dude. Because if you think about it, let me look at the standings real quick. Sorry to just pontificate on just America. The 75,000 listeners that we have every week are waiting for me to figure this out. Let's see, NFC, here we go. Here's my situation. They've got 4 losses, so does the 49ers. 49ers are a better conference record, and they will have a better conference record. So if they win and the 49ers lose, they could pass the 49ers. Eagles, they would tie with a loss. The problem is if the Cowboys jump them, they get that spot, and they've beaten them. So I think that the Cowboys, they have 4 losses. God, that's interesting. I think that they might just stay in the 3 spot. So the best they can hope for is a 49ers loss and the Eagles still win and they kind of jump the 49ers, So 2 seed is the best I think they can do.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I'm not sure I want to be betting on the Bears. I think you're on track with me.
Yeah. So, no way. No, that's why it's a little sidestep action. Thank you. All right. So Ravens against the Bengals. This is a big game. Obviously, both playoff teams. Technically speaking, the Ravens could theoretically get the division, I guess, is what's happening now. Bengals open as a 6-point favorite. They're up to 7.5 now. 42-point total in the opener right now. So, what's his name? Huntley's going to start again. We know Lamar Jackson's out. He's been banged up too. Hasn't played well. Could barely throw last week. That's where you see the move from 6 to 7.5. You got to figure the Bengals are highly motivated, but shit, man, this number's big, bro. This is what's killing me this week 18. Yeah. I don't know. Do you think the Bengals can keep this game? I'm sorry, the Ravens can keep this game close enough for that 7.5, or is this just the Bengals all the way?
Not enough to bet on it. No, I think I've seen all I need to from Huntley, and while he's still under center, I just don't have a trust in this Baltimore Ravens running or offense, and so I really like the Bengals on a teaser. This is a team that I'm going to key into a bunch of teasers this week, although I would caution folks not to get too crazy on the teasers because there's so much variance here in Week 18. I like the under a lot in this game as well. I just have seen enough from the Baltimore Ravens recently, and the under run I think is going to continue here at 42 points, but probably a pass for the contest.
Just so you know, in the market that I'm seeing action, the Bengals are up to 9. So it's even more than 7.5. Just keep that. But if you want to pass, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, we can let's highlight it in an off-color yellow, perhaps.
Like a mustard yellow.
Yeah.
Colonel Mustard in Cincinnati against the Ravens. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, this one's you've got it highlighted in red. I'm not sure what that means yet, but we've got the next one. You've got the Patriots against the Bills. The Bills open as an 8-point favorite, 42.5-point total. It's a 42.5-point total. So what's NA? So is it pulled off the card for Circa?
That's right. You nailed it. Yeah, Circa announced when they dropped the lines yesterday, given all the uncertainty surrounding the Buffalo football team, that they're not going to provide a line, and it's not going to be added to the contest this week. So unavailable for picking.
That stinks because in the end, I would have been all over the Bills here, obviously.
Yeah. Well, we can still bet at any number of shops that have the number posted. It looks like 7 mostly across the board right now. So do you think that Buffalo is going to get focused here? Because I know they haven't been pressing a lot this week.
I know, but I do think the Bills own this Patriots team first and foremost. I think that's the biggest thing. Besides, once they got that loss last year at midseason, they've just completely throttled the Patriots in the last 3 matchups. Now the Patriots are highly motivated as well. They win and they're in the playoffs. So it's and then if they lose, they just gotta sit and wait and hope that everything else falls their way. But the Bills, they got to figure they're highly motivated. They'll know if the Chiefs have won.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. But also, I just think they're going to play inspired football for their brother, who's still going to be in the hospital and all. So I just find that I understand why they pulled it off. I get it, but maybe everybody would have taken the Bills. Just that's what people would.
Yeah, I mean, at one point this week, there was some uncertainty as to whether or not Buffalo would even want to play this game in Week 18. So I think that was part of the reason. I personally am just going to be passing on this game altogether. I'm just going to wait for the playoffs in terms of Buffalo wagers.
All right. We've got the ambulance, too, actually. I know you were waiting for that.
Timely.
In a minute, Edgewater Studio. Okay, so Carolina is going to the Saints. The Saints are 5-point favorites at home, went down to 3.5 in the contest. The total ticked up from 39.5 to 41.5. We didn't talk about this in the open, but Panthers kind of blew it. I mean, they had a real good shot last week to not only – they wouldn't have won the division last week, but they'd been in a position to win. They were up big on Tampa Bay, but Mike Evans, 3 big touchdowns, 200 yards. Where was this all year? There it is. And so – what can be said? I mean, I guess the secondary injuries for the Panthers maybe moving this line. Is that why it's going, or at least the total's going up?
Yeah, I think so. I've heard a couple of folks this week already suggest that the total looks a little bit short, and I think that's some validity to that, given the way that Darnold has been playing quarterback, and this kind of Panthers offense has been putting up some points lately. In terms of the side, I make it 2 on a neutral for New Orleans, so going through the 3 is probably about perfect. I don't really see an edge either way with the dog or the favorite in this one.
Yeah, me neither. I don't like the game, so we're passing on a lot here. Actually, we're gonna have to find some at some point, but yeah,
that's all right.
Let's pass on this one. Another NFC South gem in the Bucs, who have locked up the division, playing Atlanta, and the Bucs can't improve their position at any point, even winning this game. So Tom Brady says he's going to start, but I don't know how long he's going to play. The Falcons open as a 7-point favorite. Is that really? Okay. Down to 4 in the contest, from 38.5 up to 4.5. Maybe that's because Tom's going to play in the first half. And then it could be who are they going to play? They're not going to play Gabbert, right? They're going to play the young guy, maybe?
I can't even tell. I'm not even sure who the backup is. Is it Kyle Trask? That makes sense.
Trask.
Might as well see what we got.
Play or something like that. And if he doesn't, is that his name, Kyle Trask?
Yep.
That's right. And then, but maybe they'll have a cornucopia of players, and you got the old Desmond Ritter show, who has thrown a touchdown pass so far, or run for one. So a real great game action. I like the under.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do, given the tick down to 40, I think, last I looked before we jumped on here, 40.5 in a couple of spots. Yeah. If you could get a 41, that's certainly key, but I don't think it's going to be moving in that direction. I did lay 3 with the Falcons here just because of the lack of motivation. I know you mentioned that Brady is starting, but I don't expect to see this cadre of wide receivers very much in this game. If they start, I think it'll be a series at the most, because you have Godwin and Evans and Julio, who are aging wide receivers, and they need to get them healthy for the next week. So I think that even at 4, there's some value with the Falcons.
Right. No, I think so too. So I guess we can yellow it. Can we put that stain mustardy, crappy yellow in there?
I like it.
Thank you. All right, here we go. Texans Colts. This is another great AFC South championship, non-championship game. So the Texans go to the Colts. The Colts are 2.5-point favorites at home. The total is from 39 down to 38, and in the contest it's 2.5 as well. Wow, man. This is an awful game. I know this is your squad. I'm sorry that you had to endure the season action. Jeff Saturday hopefully will not be coaching on next Sunday next year. But the Texans want to lose, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's 2.5 not a bad number if you're supposed to win, but I hate this Colts team this year, man. They really let me down.
Yeah, I know. I think that there is motivation for both teams to lose in this game. The Colts can still improve their draft position, and by losing, they give the possibility that the Bears can slide into the top spot and thereby block their divisional foe from getting a top quarterback in next year's draft. Although it's really hard to predict that a team is just going to lay down from fans, and I don't expect that Jeff Saturday will sign up for that. And so I don't really have a great expectation that Indy will try to lose straight out. I do think that scoring is going to be very difficult in this football game, so I like the under a lot, even at 38. As far as the side goes, it's really tough to make a play, I think.
Is John Taylor, he's done for the
Taylor's
year?
Out for sure, and I think that Nick Foles got hurt last week on that sack by Thibodeau. And
he was doing Snow
Angel. Yeah. Jeff Saturday didn't like that very much, and Thibodeau has no idea who Jeff Saturday is. So there's your feedback on that one. I think it's going to be Ellinger under center, who has got to be better than Nick Foles, but still have no interest in betting on the Colts at 2.5.
Yeah, for real. Okay, well, let's just pass this one, man. Jeez. All right, how about the Browns and the Steelers, baby? Steelers. 3-point favorites on the opener. Now 2.5. The total went from 39.5 to 40. Is this a sucker play action? The Steelers are going to win, right? I mean, first of all, Tomlin, he's got to keep his non-losing season alive. They could tie, and he still could get there. And, I mean, Watson's been bad. The Browns have been bad. it's just the Steelers just don't score a lot of points. It's just hard to. I mean, this is the exact same situation last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, they're gonna cover. So I'd be on the Steelers because it's 2.5. That's the only reason. If it was 3, not a chance, because they'll probably push us anyway. But I'm sure you're gonna love the Browns.
I do like the Browns. I took 3 when it popped earlier this week, but I don't know that any 3s exist anymore in the market. I could see it toggle back and forth though. Really, if you're interested in the Browns, I would wait. There's really it's asymmetric risk here to wait and see if you can get a 3 if you want to bet on the Browns. I don't think I would want to take 2.5 in the contest, but I don't think I want to lay it with Pittsburgh either, because I think the Browns are going to have some motivation to knock the Steelers out of the playoffs. I know they have very slim chances, but a win for Cleveland here, I think, is something that they'd be interested in.
That's true. Now, they did beat the Steelers pretty good early in the season, but okay, we'll agree to disagree on that one. And another stay away. Well, we'll get a couple picks at some point action this week. Okay, we've talked about the Jets-Dolphins game already a little bit. The Jets are Dolphins, still in the 1 o'clock window. The Fins are open as a 4-point favorites. And now in the contest, the Jets are favored? Is that right?
-1.
41.5 down to 38.5. So this must be due to the quarterbacking, but I don't know, man. The Jets with Flacco, they're favored on the road. They play it like garbage. I don't know, man. The Dolphins are in a situation where they have to win and New England has to lose for them to get in. So highly motivated spot. We know Tua is not going to play. I don't know. Is that what's in the marketplace now?
I'm just confirming on Circa's website. It's definitely Jets -1, and I'm looking at my odds screen now and seeing Miami 2-point favorites across the board. So the market apparently likes the Blaine Gabbert elevation.
Well, it's not Blaine. It's Skylar Thompson or Mike.
Oh, Glenn. Sorry, wrong washed up quarterback.
I think you got to go with the Fins here, buddy. I mean, this is a value pick. I think everybody's going to pick it in the contest given where things are going, but
True.
I don't. Even if let's say full strength here, Jets playing their best football against the Dolphins. This is a tough spot for the Jets. I mean, they're going to. I was on them a couple weeks saying, they can make the playoffs, blah blah blah. They have not played well for weeks on offense. Defense is usually pretty good. Last week, not so good. This is a better offense, and I know Skylar Thompson's not good, but you're not going to be that bad against, the Jets.
Oh, man, I have a really hard time betting on Skylar Thompson, though. He's been so – I mean, if I knew that Glennon was going to play and get some time, even though – was he on the practice squad or was he just assigning off the street?
That's what they said. They elevated him from the practice squad. Yeah.
Okay, so at least he knows the offense. I mean, obviously there are some bettors in this market who think Miami is do something. But maybe it's just the straight-up fate of the Jets, too, because they are out, right? No chance. So
no chance. They've been eliminated.
This is a team who's been playing for the last 4 to 5, 6 weeks, who thought they had a legitimate shot at the playoffs. Now a demoralizing loss in Seattle. You're traveling to South Beach for Week 18. Perhaps the Jets are just going to lay down in this game.
And something has to give. The Fins have lost 5 in a row. The Jets have lost 5 in a row. I think it's been a rough road for both these teams that were looking like, NFL darlings early in the season for both of us. We were on, at least on the Jets early. But yeah, 1, 2, 3, 5 losses. There you go. Jets were 7-4 at one time. Wow. So, all right, I'm on the Fins.
I think you're right. It's going to be a popular pick, but,
Yeah. We're just in and out. Let's try to finish strong. Okay, Dallas. In the 4 o'clock, we've got Dallas at the Commanders. The Commanders, we'll talk about that in a minute. Cowboys open as a 6-point favorite on the road, now up to 7 in the contest, from the total from 42 to 41. 2 things about last week that we didn't mention. So they start Carson Wentz. He was awful. 3 really bad interceptions. I don't know if you heard his post game. He's like, hey, what were you thinking on the interception? He's like, which one? The other thing was like Ron Rivera. I'm sure you saw this on the meets. Like, Ron, so Coach Rivera, if Green Bay wins and you're eliminated, would that have changed your decision-making thinking? And he's like, eliminated?
Classic.
So the Commanders got eliminated last week because with Green Bay winning and them losing and going back to Heineke this week. So a little bit crazy.
Actually, I think it's going to be Sam Howell. Actually, I've been reading the
really?
rookie quarterback will finally make his debut, and
nice.
I think I like the move. I think the Commanders are going to be a little live here, to be honest with you. 7 points with a defense that I would expect is not going to quite lay down. This is still a rivalry game, and I liked Sam Howell in college, and I think that he's going to upgrade definitely over Wentz, perhaps even on par with Heineke in terms of ability. So I don't know, what do you think about that?
Well, the other thing you got to consider is that even though the games are at the same time, the Eagles are playing at the same time as the Giants, they're going to be score watching, right? They can't move up unless the Eagles lose, and they're also secure in their position, at the 5 seed regardless. So if they win the game and the Eagles lose, yes, they can jump up and win the division and get up and host a playoff game. But let's say the Eagles come out and they're winning 14-0 or whatever in the second half. How hard are they going to play? Yeah. So that 7 points does seem like too much. So I guess we're back on the Commanders.
Yeah, the back door will certainly be open in this one, I believe. And, we touched on it the last several weeks. This Cowboys defense is not the same defense that started the season. I think injuries have finally caught up to them. So what better way to gear up for the playoffs but to rest some of those guys here or not play quite as hard. And so I think that's going to happen.
I agree. Okay, Chargers going to the Broncos. The Chargers open point favorite. In this one, 41-point total. The total's down to 40, and then is it really up to the Broncos -3? Is that true? So interesting situation, I suppose. But because the Chargers technically can move up, but I guess, they must be resting Herbert.
I have not seen any news on Herbert. What I've heard, though, is that the Chargers are preferred to be in their position, whether I think it's the 5 seed, perhaps, just based on the way that here's the bracket is going to shake out, to make it an easier path into the playoffs. And so I think that odds makers and bettors alike are expecting that the Chargers will try to lose this game to maintain their seeding, ironic as it is.
So I guess you have to think that through. They're the 5 seed, but let's see what this works. The 5 seed, they could only move down because they can't move up, right? So they could move down. If they lose, they would, instead of playing the Jags, then they would play like one of the top 3. Doesn't make sense to me. And then when the Bengals play later, right? Or they already played with them. The Bengals played. I guess they already know the outcome at that point. If the Ravens lose, then they're definitely locked into the 5 seed. So we know that.
Exactly.
Okay. So that's the thought process. So, with the Broncos, huh?
And for that reason, I heard on a podcast earlier that a Cincinnati Bengals moneyline parlay to the Denver Broncos -3 is going to be a very good look, because as you mentioned, if the Bengals win, then the Chargers seed is locked up. They're going to get that 5 seed and presumably play the Jags or Titans. And so if we see the Bengals win, there's a good chance that this 3-point spread currently for the Denver Broncos might be trending towards 6 or 7, because the Chargers will definitely lay down at that point. So I think that I already put it in Bengals money line to the Broncos spread pays like a little bit over plus money. And I think it's worth a shot.
Sure. Sounds good. So
do you want to lay 3?
Would you be out of the contest?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, we already talked about how we like the Bengals this week. So if we like the Bengals and we think that this number is going to be 6 or 7 by kickoff, laying 3 is some value.
Little parlay for the side dash. Let's do it. All
right.
Yellow. Maybe turns it into. Okay, Arizona going to the 49ers in the 4 o'clock window. The 49ers open as a 13-point favorite. It's 14 in the contest. The total from 40-40.5. Now, as we discussed, they can still be the 1 seed. Actually, if they win their game and the Eagles lose, they're going to be the 1 seed. It's pretty simple. So they're playing at the same time as the Eagles. I don't know. 14 is a lot of points, dude. I think there's a really good football team. Last week kind of hurt me because I guess they're pretty good offense, but with a backup quarterback, a young guy, they kind of got lit up, and it was weird. So I don't like Arizona at all. But they actually played pretty well last week. They covered their number against Atlanta, but certainly not the same caliber team.
Yeah, David Blau starting at quarterback again for the Cardinals. But I'm with you. I think laying 14 is a lot here, but I also have no interest in backing the Cardinals here in the last week of the season. So that's for me as well.
Okay. Easy.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got the Giants going to the Eagles. The Eagles open as a 10-point favorite at home. Now it's 14. 40.5-point total and up to 43 total now. And so the 40 points laid by the Eagles in this one, I don't know, man. I think it's too many points. I don't really think the Eagles, it's not just, I don't think their defense is playing good, but as much as I'm assuming they'll probably sit Daniel Jones, at least Saquon Barkley, but I mean, they can't improve their seeding, obviously, the Giants, but they're salty. They're going to the playoffs. They don't want to be laying down for their opponent that's in their division. So I'd probably be on the Giants here.
Yeah, I love the Giants in this game. 14, I think, is way too many points. And this Jalen Hurts, I believe, is slated to come back and play, but he's been nursing a shoulder injury. And I can't imagine that the Eagles put him into too many harm's way in terms of his running because they need to get him healthy into the playoffs. So,
right.
The one big advantage that the Eagles offense has is Jalen Hurts and his ability to run the football. And I just don't see that happening this week. You add into the fact that 2-3 years ago, I think it was, the Eagles, you probably remember the Sunday night game on week 18.
Yeah.
They had a chance to, I think it was Washington that they were playing. They had a chance. Jalen Hurts was playing that night. And if they won that game, the Giants would have made the playoffs. But they sat Jalen Hurts in the second half and brought in that former Indiana quarterback, and they lost the game, and the Giants were knocked out. And they were none too pleased about that. So I think that the Giants are going to be looking for a little bit of payback on Sunday.
Are we going green?
Yeah, I like the Giants a lot. I like them. I took plus 9.5 in the first half as well with the Giants. I think that there's value there, and definitely a second half bet or 14 is also in play for sure.
Yeah. I do think now looking back, they missed on the opportunity of doing the Giants last week because they just laid the wood last week. But yeah. Too late.
I bet on the Colts last week.
All right, that's okay. If you'd have gone against us last week, you'd have done great. So the Rams, in the 4 o'clock window, the Rams going to the Seahawks. Seahawks open as a 5.5-point favorite at 6 in the contest, 41.5, staying at 41 for the total, 41.5 for total. So interesting, the Seahawks aren't guaranteed a spot. So if they win, they still have to watch the Green Bay-Detroit game. They would eliminate the Lions if they win. So they obviously have a possibility of making the Rams, it's hard to say who this team is. And they played pretty well of late, but the Seahawks obviously took care of business the first time they played. I just don't really trust what happened last week with the Jets. So I'm not really sure, even though it's a home game, I can't really lay those 6 points in this game action. So it'd be Rams or pass, and I'd be happy to walk away from the Rams.
Yeah, I agree with you on that sentiment, Rams or pass. I think, though, the Rams have had their number. I think, is this the NFC West? I know there's always these pairings, but, I mean, despite Seattle winning the first game this season, I believe, just pulling up the head-to-head, it's the Rams that have actually owned this series recently. And actually, they did get the cover. Despite the loss earlier this season, they covered at 6.5. And getting 4 straight covers in a row for LA in this series. So I think that 6 is too many. And I just don't trust the Seattle Seahawks team. So if anything, I would take the 6. I would consider it for the contest if you would.
Okay, we'll have to see how many we have. It's yellow on the Rams. I don't know. It's definitely going to be one of the lower picks here, but I mean, who cares now? We'll just try to get as many points as we can and make it happen. The last game is the 8 o'clock game, 8:20 for Sunday Night Football. That's going to be Detroit against the Packers. I do think it made a mistake here. I do think they should have put the Titans game here, and they should have flipped, this game at the same time as Seattle because it doesn't really make sense. Now Detroit could be, dead team walking. Green Bay opened as a 4.5-point favorite. It's still 4.5 in the contest. The total went from 48 to 49. The real question here is if Dan Campbell will still play his squad really hard if they are eliminated, which I think they will. I really do. But I don't know what your thoughts are in this one, Action.
Well, I mean, this number is set at kind of like a 50-50, I would say, probably even more shaded to the Green Bay side because of the line in that Seattle Rams game. Because if both teams had motivation, full on motivation, I make this one on a neutral, and there's no way that I could ever get to 4.5, especially given the Green Bay Packers' porous run defense. I mean, I also agree with you. I think that even if Seattle wins, that Detroit is still going to play hard. I don't think it's in Campbell's nature to lay down, especially against a division rival with a chance to knock them out of the playoffs. So I really do side with the Lions here at 4.5, but I have a hard time putting our contest on it just due to the motivational question mark.
Well, let me ask you a question, Action, because I've heard a lot of conflicting information of late, because we always were dogging the Pack for a long time. Has their defense gotten that much better? I heard it's gotten better the last, in this win streak. So now, granted, maybe it's who they're playing, but I don't know. I think the Packers are going to win this football game, even if they're playing for all the marbles. I think the Packers win. 4.5 is really bad for a divisional matchup. If this game matters, but I just I don't know, man. It's interesting. I've heard a lot of juice on the Pack in general. Like somebody said, I think they're plus 1,600 or something to win the Super Bowl, or no, win the NFC. So if you end up taking them now and they make it next week, you're already the odds are going to drop really quickly. So I don't know. I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. I think I might dabble on this situation. Not that I love Aaron Rodgers. I think he's a jerk, but this is what he wanted. Game at home, Sunday Night Football, get to the playoffs if we win. Come on, man. He's going to play great. Christian Watson has been great. They started using the running game, and the defense has played a little bit better. Their pass defense, they've used Jair Alexander really well. He shut down Justin Jefferson last week. I think the Lions have more of a diverse passing attack, but in the cold in Green Bay, come on, dude. I mean, so I'd be Packers or pass here. I just don't have the number, but I think it's probably going to be a popular, it's going to be I think everybody's going to bet Green Bay, you know what I mean? Like the total homer pick, but I don't think it's wrong.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get there on the Packers. That's tough for me. I'm a Lions homer now, I guess.
Where's the Dodgers?
I mean, even if Alexander lines up against St. Brown, the Lions have other weapons on the outside. Jameson Williams has been playing better, and I can't name any of the other receivers now, but I mean, Goff has been really good this year, spreading the ball around.
They've been throwing the tight ends, and they got the running game. Swift has been good. I know what you're saying. I just, I think the Lions have gotten better this year. I think this is the game we'll see. We'll see what happens. We can stay away. I'm happy to just watch like a fan.
I think I would feel better staying away, to be honest with
you. Yeah, easy enough. Let's see how many picks we've got here. We've gone through like the Raiders on the road or at home, getting 9 points against the Chiefs on Saturday afternoon. Have to get that pick in on time.
Yeah.
We kind of lightly shaded the Bengals. It's 3.5, 7.5 at home against the Ravens. That's on the 1 o'clock window. We also lightly shaded the Falcons, laying 4 against the Buccaneers at home at 1 o'clock. We highlighted the Dolphins getting 1 at home against the Jets. Washington getting 7 at home against the Cowboys. Seems like a common theme. We like another home team. The Broncos getting 3 or laying 3 against the Chargers. And here's a couple road teams. The Giants getting 14 at the Eagles, and the Rams getting 6 at Seattle. I think that's enough to pick from to avoid these games that we're kind of 50-50 on.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so we'll talk it through. Let's give you the contest update here. We've got we didn't do well last week, Ash. It's been 3 tough weeks after our big 5-0 spot. 3-1. So now we're 53%. It's a little lower than we want to be. We can still get close to 60, but not hit the 60%. It's a shame because the top 100 is right at that 60 mark that we targeted. So right now, we're at 6 points off the pace here at 45.5 to the 51.5 at the top 100. So we know what the bogey is actually. We just got to do a little bit better here and there. The top dog is sitting at, what did we say, just 68% or so, 68 point something percent.
Yeah.
At 58.5, which is low for them. So it's been a tough year across the board for people. Let's see if we can finish strong and build for next year. And we are going to do March Madness, everybody. But newsflash, it's expensive this year. It looks everybody's gouging the prices. So the other things to look forward to.
The construction exposition is driving the prices up apparently. Or first real year out of the pandemic is probably part of it too.
How did they plan it that week?
Yeah.
So I know you're in a rush to get things going, but I wanted to give the fans, the loyal fans, just a little talk about the national championship game on Monday. We didn't talk about semis, but some crazy games in the semifinals on New Year's Eve. A couple great games that came down to the wire in both. And now you've got TCU against Georgia. Georgia is laying 12.5 right now. It opened closer to 13.5, 14. It's been bet down. So this game, Georgia's been the prohibitive favorite all season. They have a chance to go back to back, and that doesn't happen. But TCU, they've been salty, man, and they're kind of in the underdog role because the Big 12 is not as respected as the SEC. But let's face it, they came in, they played Michigan, punched them in the mouth, had 2 defensive scores, maybe got help with a bad call at the goal line, but a better seemed to be taking the points in this one, huh?
Yeah, they sure are, right? I think you nailed the key point here is that early on, at least up until here Friday evening, the 6th, the underdogs are getting bet here. So 13.5 down to 12.5. It's pretty clear that some folks are taking a position on TCU, and how could not? The way that they just really went after Michigan in the trenches was impressive. And I think that the way Georgia plays football and Michigan, they're kind of cut from the same cloth. They've got the, very stellar line play. And because of that performance against Michigan, I think bettors are seeing that, okay, TCU can handle that type of football. And so there's an expectation that they can take a similar approach against the Bulldogs. So
in the total 62.5, given the semifinal games, it seems like the over would be reasonable. They're playing in SoFi, so it's going to be, good conditions. But, most sharp people are smart. They go under. I don't know, actually. And I want TCU. I've been rooting for them. I've seen them play a lot this year. I like the way they play. Sonny Dykes a really good coach. I think Georgia's going to crush them, dude. I don't know what to say. Yeah, I think it's going to be it's going to be sad. I think they're going to beat them bad, and it's going to be it's going to go under the total. I think that, I don't know if it was Harbaugh or what, but it's like Michigan wasn't prepared for that football game. And the turnovers, two defensive scores, and I think they had a 4th down conversion they didn't get. They made some bad decisions. I don't think Georgia's going to do that. So TCU has to play better than they did. Maybe the number was wrong at 14, but 12.5, I think I take it. And at first I was like, look, I heard before the Final Four, like TCU was like 7 or 8 to 1 to win the title. And that's when you take them, and then you can hedge in this situation. Of course, I didn't do that. But I think this is, I don't know, man. I'd be surprised if the same thing happened. I think Ohio State played really well against Georgia, and they got scared. This time, I think they're not going to play any games, and they're going to beat down the Horned Frogs.
I like it. I think that both of those sides, the Georgia side and the under, are going to be a little bit contrarian. So definitely can't go wrong in direction in such a big game, primetime Monday night college football championship. I personally put in a couple of props. I'm betting on the TCU quarterback Max Duggan to score an anytime touchdown at plus 130. He uses his legs a lot, and he is prolific at getting into the end zone. So I like the value there. And I also bet the TCU tailback under his rushing yards prop at 67.5. I think that, if anything, this Georgia out defensive line will press the running backs a little bit and make TCU a passing team. And so that's all I bet so far for Monday night.
I like it. Well, I'll be doing a community presentation at 6 o'clock before the game starts at 6:30 here Central. So I'll be talking to my Chinese brethren that I'm doing this project in Chinatown. So hopefully I'll get to catch the second half, but I'm sure you have plans to watch the game somewhere.
Yeah, nothing really planned for Monday night yet. Maybe venture on down to MGM Detroit, see if I can catch it in the sports book or something.
Nice. For the weekend, tomorrow is the big game night for for the late belated celebration for me. That I'm usually the minus money favorite, but I haven't won in a couple of years, action. So, we'll see if I can influence that this year. But it should be a good time, and then Sunday I'll be working and watching football. So hopefully you have a nice weekend plan. I know you had skiing last weekend and you got home safe.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Laying low a little bit this weekend. It's kind of our off week before we travel again next week. So we're going to take it easy. Watch some football, basketball, hopefully.
Nice. Well, hey, follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter, at Side Action Podcast on Instagram. Follow me at Wexpool on Twitter and on Instagram.
And follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
All right, everybody. Good luck this weekend and be safe.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Side Action Podcast. We appreciate all of your listens and thank you for joining us. We'll see you all again next week on Thursday for some more hot picks and side action. Side Action Podcast, its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions or statements made by the show hosts or their guests. Statements or show topics are not necessarily the beliefs of this podcast, and opinions between talk show hosts may conflict. Individuals following the advice given on the podcast accept their own risk of losses from wagers made, as the Side Action Podcast, its owners, hosts, associates, or guests will not guarantee any advice given. The opinions and advice given on the Side Action Podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Intro and outro and transition music credits. Song titles Jerry 5 and District 4 by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.org. Licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0. creativecommons.org/licenses/by 3.0.